Today's lesson is More Than Cute, The Remarkable Lives of Sea Otters. Hello, everyone. I'm Mike.
Hi, everybody. My name is Roger, and today we're going to be talking about a cute little animal called the sea otter. An otter, of course, can exist in different places. I think there are freshwater otters, but we also have ones that live in the ocean. So the ones we're going to talk about today are sea otters, and we're going to learn all about their behavior and why they are so interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. These are very interesting animals. Of course, they're cute. That's often what draws people in. I think with young kids visiting a zoo or an aquarium for the first time, the penguins, the otters, the seals, they kind of stand out, right? And otters are very, very friendly, very curious animals. I often think of them as sort of friendly dogs that live in the water. They have kind of a dog-like face to them, and they certainly do seem to enjoy doing fun things and have a bit of a relationship with humans. They're not frightening. They don't seem too shy, so they are very, very popular. But they're also very interesting. One of the few animals out there that, for example, uses tools. A tool-using creature that is not really related to us in any close way, of course, like apes or monkeys. But otters are definitely something that, once you learn a little bit about them, you will quickly realize they are much more fascinating than just a cute little furry sea creature. They are definitely much more talented, the otters. So let's give them their due and find out more about them in our article. More Than Cute, The Remarkable Lives of Sea Otters. Sea otters are well known for their cute faces and playful behavior. But there's much more to them than their charming antics. These animals are highly intelligent and even know how to use tools. For example, they use rocks to crack open shellfish, making it easier to access their meat. They are also excellent divers, capable of holding their breath for over 5 minutes as they hunt for food beneath the water.
大家好，第一部分介绍名词 behavior， 它的意思是行为或是举止。例如 Jody's behavior at the party last night was a bit rude. Jody 昨晚在派对上的行为有点无理。或者 Randy regretted his bad behavior. Randy 对自己的恶行感到很后悔。继续看到动词 access， 指能够使用或是得以进入，同时也可以是存取档案或是资料的意思。例如 The firefighters used an axe to break down the door to access the building. 消防员用斧头破门进入那栋建筑。也可以说 The news website allows anybody to access its articles. 这个新闻网站允许任何人读取其文章。后面介绍名词 diver， 表示潜水者。可以说 The diver took pictures of the ship when he swam underneath it. 潜水者在游到船底时拍下了船的照片。又或者说 The diver was able to see thousands of colorful fish swimming deep in the ocean. 潜水者能够看到成千上万条五颜六色的鱼在海洋深处游动。
Okay, so again, we're talking about sea otters in today's lesson, and they're more than cute. They're not just cute, they actually have some other characteristics that are worth talking about. Here in the first part, it says, sea otters are well known for their cute faces and playful behavior. Indeed, they are very cute, especially their faces. They're cute. They look like puppies. Everybody wants to be friends with a sea otter. And they also have this playful behavior. Behavior is how you act, and oftentimes when we talk about animals, we talk about their behavior, what they do. Formosan blue magpie, for example, we might talk about the fact that its behavior is very family-oriented. The male and the female work together to raise the chicks, to raise the babies. So we talk about how they act in the wild, how they behave. And here the otters have a playful behavior. It's like they're playing games like a puppy would.
Yeah, exactly right. And very friendly and charming to us humans who are observing them. But, and here's the important thing, that's why we titled the article More Than Cute, but there's much more to them than their charming antics. You can be charmed by them and enjoy their fun, wacky, friendly, and frolicsome behavior, but don't sell them short. Don't just assume that they're simple little creatures who love to have fun. They are sophisticated and deep. But their antics, of course, are very charming. When we say antics, we're kind of talking about fun, foolish behavior. When you think of a bunch of kids running around at a birthday party, screaming and yelling and playing games and being lost in their own world of fun and adventure and energetic sort of activity, those are the antics we're kind of talking about. Or think of a room with 6 puppies in it. The puppies are chasing each other, rolling around, biting each other, in a friendly way, but in a very energetic kind of fun way. So those types of antics are also very charming. But here we get to the serious stuff. It says these animals are highly intelligent and even know how to use tools. Yeah, there you go. Are you impressed now? Yeah, well, you should be. Yeah, they are. They're very intelligent. They're very smart. They've shown all sorts of different ways of dealing with their environment and problem solving. And one of those ways that is very impressive, really, when you look at most animals in nature, they use tools. They use physical objects around them, not just their hands and teeth and whatever, but physical objects around them to solve problems and to make life easier for them. For example, Roger.
For example, they use rocks to crack open shellfish, making it easier to access their meat. Okay, so I guess for the most part, if an animal comes across shellfish, which is a kind of sea creature that lives inside a shell, and you want to break it open so you can eat the meat.
Oysters,
yeah, clams, oysters, things like that. And yes, they want to crack open the shellfish. Most animals would try to do it with their hands, or I guess in the ocean they try to use their fins, or maybe their noses or something like that. But that's direct, okay? In direct contact, you need to have some sort of abstract thinking in order to use a tool, okay? So sometimes that is a sign of intelligence if an animal knows how to use a tool. Like, of course, chimpanzees learn how to use tools to complete various tasks. I think even some species of the crow know how to use tools as well, so that is a sign of intelligence. And again, they use rocks as a way to crack open those shells. My goodness, I can't use my nose or my fins or whatever to crack this open. Where's a rock? I'll just crack this open and I'll have the food inside.
Which is exactly how early humans probably did it before they developed more specialized tools. But here the otters are. They find some rocks either on the sea floor or on the beach or something, and they crack open these shellfish, making it easier to access their meat. To access something is to be able to get at something or use something. You use a key or a security card or a PIN number to access a locked room. As long as you have the key or the security card or the PIN number, you can get in. You have access to it. If you don't have a ticket, though, you won't have access to the airplane or the movie theater. You need to buy something in order to get in or to use things. So these rocks allow them to get at the tasty meat inside the shellfish. It says they are also excellent divers, capable of holding their breath for over 5 minutes as they hunt for food beneath the water. So there you go. They're very good swimmers, as of course are dolphins and seals and other mammals, air-breathing mammals, but they swim very well in the water, much better than they move on land, and they're capable of holding their breath for a long time, over 5 minutes. Quite impressive. A diver is just someone who swims and dives under the water, diving. In this case, not talking about jumping off a board into the water like Olympic divers would. We're talking about someone in the water who is very capable of swimming underwater, holding their breath. Humans, of course, will use snorkels or scuba tanks, but we can call people using that equipment. They are divers as well, but just basically means they have a very good facility for movement under the water. In this case, they have to hold their breath, or they are capable of holding their breath for over 5 minutes. I can maybe do a minute with a little bit of effort, but 5 minutes while swimming underwater? Yeah, forget about that. Only certain specially trained humans could do that. For otters, it's easy.
Okay, let's move on now to the second part and talk some more about lovely sea otters.
When it's time to rest, sea otters usually float on the surface of the water. To avoid floating away, they wrap themselves in kelp and hold on to one another in groups called rafts. Amazingly, some rafts can consist of over 1,000 otters. Meanwhile, unlike most marine mammals, sea otters don't have a thick layer of fat to keep them warm. Instead, they rely on their extremely dense fur, the thickest of any animal, to insulate them in cold waters.
第二部分看到名词 mammal， 它的意思是哺乳动物。例如 Some mammals, like dogs and cats, are commonly kept as pets. 有些哺乳动物，像是狗和猫，是常见的宠物。再看一个例子 The largest mammal in the world is the blue whale. 世界上最大的哺乳动物是蓝鲸。接着介绍形容词 dense， 指密集的、茂密的或是密度大的。举例来说 Housing is often expensive in cities with a dense population. 在人口密集的城市里，房子通常很贵。或是 It was hard to move through the dense jungle. 要穿过这座茂密的丛林很难。再来看到动词 insulate， 表示使隔热、使隔音或是使绝缘。例如 The coat insulated Susan from the cold wind. 这件外套让 Susan 阻挡了寒风的侵袭。也可以说 That light jacket won't insulate you from the winter in Alaska. 那件薄夹克无法让你抵御阿拉斯加的冬天。
All right, we are back with our friendly sea otter friends. We've learned that they are not only very cute, I mean, we already knew that, but they're also very intelligent. They are tool-using animals, which puts them in a very small group, really. And also very good divers. They're very comfortable in the water. They can hold their breath for over 5 minutes, so never get into a breath-holding competition with an otter. You will lose. Let's find out more about them. Oh, I love this part. When it's time to rest, it says sea otters usually float on the surface of the water. Yes, absolutely. They will sleep in the water. They won't come out on land because it would be too easy to be caught on land by a fox or some kind of bobcat or something that might be looking for a tasty otter. So they sleep in the water, floating around on the surface. But remember, otters are slightly bigger than a house cat, a small dog size. So they're not exactly the most frightening thing in the ocean. And it says to avoid floating away, right? Once they're asleep, the waves might push them away from the land and carry them hundreds of miles, possibly, if they sleep long enough. So to avoid that, they wrap themselves in kelp and hold on to one another in groups called rafts. It's so cute. They wrap themselves in kelp. Kelp is that very long form of seaweed. We would call kelp a seaweed or a sea grass. It's usually quite long. It often has a wide sort of leaf to it, and it grows in large kelp forests. That's what they call them, kelp forests, near coastal areas generally, where the sea floor is not too far from the surface. But it's a seagrass, so they kind of use it like a rope or like a blanket to wrap themselves in. The kelp is attached to the bottom of the ocean or the sea floor, so that means they won't float away, kind of like a sea creature version of sleeping in a tree or something like that. And here's the best part. They hold on to one another in groups called rafts. They hold hands, Roger. It's the cutest thing. They're sleeping on their backs and they're all holding hands while doing it. Aww.
Isn't that cute?
It
I don't know if
is.
they actually have hands as much as they have flippers or fins or
Paws,
whatever.
I guess.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
And they do find a way to hold on to each other. And I guess they could still sleep and still hold on to each other without letting go. And yes, indeed, they are in these groups which are called rafts. Okay, that's a special term for this situation. A raft is usually a kind of boat that is flat on the bottom. And of course, sometimes you can have a raft floating in the ocean if you got stuck on an island or something, like Tom Hanks's character in Cast Away. He escaped that island on a raft. Okay, but in any case here, this is what they're floating in, and it's called a raft in this scientific situation. Amazingly, some rafts can consist of over 1,000 otters.
Wow.
So that is amazing. It's something that happens in an amazing way. They can consist of or contain over 1,000 otters. I would have imagined maybe 4 or 5 or something, but they can actually have over 1,000 of the little devils holding on to each other until their nap is done, and then they can hold their breath again for 5 minutes and go down and hunt for food.
Can you imagine being out on a boat and just seeing something weird floating on the water, and as you get closer, you realize it's 1,000 otters?
Be quite a sight to see.
That would be almost terrifying. I hope they don't get mad. But yeah, so there you go. That's how they keep themselves safe. And also, it clearly shows that they live in fairly large communities, or at least they come together in large communities to get a good nap. Meanwhile, unlike most marine mammals, sea otters don't have a thick layer of fat to keep them warm. Yes, otters often live in colder parts of the world, the North Pacific and places like that, but they don't have that thick layer layer of fat, which we generally call blubber, to keep them warm. When we think of whales, when we think of walruses, things like that, large sort of flabby beasts, they have a lot of that flab, that size that they have, is this rubber, this sort of blanket of fat that they have that keeps their internal organs warm while the outside sea temperature is very cold. Otters don't have that blubber, that thick layer of fat, and that is different from most marine mammals. Marine meaning of the ocean. So if you're studying marine science, you're studying science of the ocean. If you're a marine engineer, you're building things that will go in the water, oil rigs or things like that. So anything to do with the ocean and studies or activities around it, we often use the word marine. And mammals, that of course is the large category of animals that otters fit in. They are warm-blooded, they are air-breathing, they have live babies, they have fur, their hair on their bodies. These are some of the general things that most mammals have in common. And unlike some of the other marine mammals, like whales and dolphins, for example, and walruses and seals, they don't have this layer of blubber. So how do they stay warm?
Well, instead of having that blubber, they rely on their extremely dense fur, the thickest of any animal, to insulate them in cold waters. So if something's dense, a lot of things are put together in one place. You could describe a forest or a jungle as being very dense because the trees are very close together. So here, the different hair follicles are very close together, and therefore the sea otter can keep warm. And yes, indeed, if you have something like that, you could say this thing is insulating you from the cold. Okay, so if you live, say, in northern countries like Sweden or something like that, you want to insulate your house. You want to have the walls of the house able to keep the cold out and to keep the warm in. Houses in Taiwan are not really insulated because the heat from inside goes outside pretty quickly, or the heat from outside comes in pretty quickly, although maybe some houses are insulated. But in any case here, yes, the animals are insulated with that dense fur. Okay, that brings us to the end of the second part of our lesson for today. Let's listen now to the third and final part.
Sea otters also play a critical role in maintaining healthy ocean systems. By eating sea urchins that feed on kelp, they help protect kelp forests, which provide food and shelter for countless other marine species. Therefore, it is essential to protect sea otters to ensure that they and other marine species can thrive for years to come.
第三部分看到形容词 critical 表示至关重要的、关键性的或是批判的，可以说 The next few minutes are critical for the success of the mission. 接下来的几分钟对此任务的成功至关重要。最后一个例子 Eating the correct diet is critical for a healthy life. 饮食正确对健康生活而言至关重要。
Okay, here in the third and final part, it says, sea otters also play a critical role in maintaining healthy ocean systems. Okay, so here we've got the term critical, which means it's key, it's crucial, it's important, it's necessary. So it's a crucial role, it's a critical role in maintaining a healthy ocean system. Okay, so this is to play a role, that's the verb phrase, and then we're modifying it with the word critical, to play a critical role. In other words, they are very important for the health of the ocean. If we don't have sea otters, there could be really big problems.
Let's find out some of those critical roles that they play. By eating sea urchins that feed on kelp, they help protect kelp forests, which provide food and shelter for countless other marine species. Okay, so they're sort of like the forest wardens, the forest rangers of the ocean. They're eating sea urchins. Everyone knows a sea urchin. Well, if you like sushi, it's uni. If you've ever enjoyed uni at a sushi restaurant, that is sea urchin. It's black, it's often a ball shape, and it has many spikes coming out of it. Not the kind of thing you want to step on when you're wading at the beach, when you're out there walking on the sea floor. But sea urchins, of course, are animals that live close to the land and in reef-type areas. But I didn't know this, that sea urchins, they feed on kelp. So the sea urchins can eat the kelp, eat that seagrass that grows in the ocean, and that can be bad. So by eating the sea urchins, the sea otters are helping to protect the kelp forests, which provide food and shelter for countless other marine species in the same way that forests on the land provide a home or a shelter for many types of animals. Kelp forests in the ocean do a similar kind of thing, play a similar role. Many other marine or countless other marine species, when we say species, we mean types of animals. So there will be little fish that live in there and little shellfish that live in there and all sorts of creatures, shrimp, you name it. And I think many other creatures will lay eggs in the kelp forests because the forest provides some protection to the eggs as they grow. They won't be eaten by predators and things like that. So kelp forests are very important for many types of animals in the ocean. Therefore, it is essential to protect sea otters to ensure that they and other marine species can thrive for years to come. So making sure that sea otters, an animal that might get a little bit ignored when we're looking at animals in danger, but they should be paid more attention to. We should give them the respect because not only are they cute, they're smart, and they do good work for everyone living there in the ocean, and they hold hands while they sleep. I mean, that's enough for me.
That's very cute. So hopefully their conservation status is of least concern. Okay, that brings us to the end of our explanation for today. Here comes Hanny.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 今天的文章是关于海獭，那我们来看看文章里面的5个题目。第一题他提到 For example, they use rocks to 空格 shellfish, making it easier to access their meat. 例如他们会利用石头空格敲开贝类，方便取出肉。那这题是考我们语义，来看选项 A cut loose 表示摆脱束缚，无拘无束。 B snap shut 表示快速的关上，啪的那种关上的意思。那么 C crack open 表示敲开。 D lock tight 表示锁紧。从语义上来看，最适合答案会是 C crack open 来表达说海獭会利用石头敲开贝类，方便取出里面的肉。好，那第二题他提到 They are also excellent divers. 空格 holding their breath for over 5 minutes as they hunt for food beneath the water. 他们还是出色的潜水高手。空格在水下屏住呼吸超过5分钟来觅食。那这题考我们语义，来看选项 A capable of 是表达能够怎么样。 B satisfied with 表示对什么什么满意。 C dedicated to 表示致力于什么什么。 D ready for 表示准备好什么什么。那空格前方提到海獭是出色的潜水高手，后面则是说明他们的能力可以在水下屏住呼吸超过5分钟来觅食。从语义上来看是在讲他们能力嘛，所以最适合答案就是 A capable of 来表达说能够怎么样怎么样。好，看到第3题他说 Amazingly, some rafts can 空格 over 1,000 otters. 令人惊奇的是，有些筏可以空格超过1000只海獭。好，那这题考我们片语动词，来看选项 A consist of 它表示包含，由什么什么构成。 B account for 表示数量上占多少，或者是解释说明的意思。 C belong to 表示属于某人所有，或者是隶属于某组织团体的意思。 D depend on 表示取决于什么什么。空格前方的句子提到说，在休息时间海獭通常漂浮在水面上，为了防止漂走，他们会用海藻将自己缠绕住，并彼此紧紧地抓住，来形成称为筏的群体。好，那从语义上来看，它应该是要表达有些筏可以包含超过1000只海獭。那最适合的答案就会是 A consist of 它可以表达包含或由什么构成。注意 consist of 它的主词必须是整体，这个用法没有被动用法哦。我们看到第4题他说空格逗号 They rely on their extremely dense fur, the thickest of any animal, to insulate them in cold waters. 他说空格逗号他们依靠极其浓密的毛皮，是所有动物中最厚的毛皮，在寒冷的水域中保温。那这题考我们转折副词，来看选项 A subsequently 它表示接着随后。 B likewise 同样地。 C besides 此外。 D instead 表示相反地，作为替代。空格前面的句子呢，是有提到说海獭跟大多数海洋哺乳动物不同，并没有厚厚的脂肪层来保暖。那空格后方句子则提到他们依靠极其浓密的毛皮在寒冷的水域中保温，因此空格里面应该填入能够强调海獭保暖方法并不是仰赖脂肪层， 而是浓密毛皮的那种副词。好，所以我们的选项 D instead 它可以表达相反地或是作为替代，在这边是最适合的选项，就可以表达出对比咯。好，再来看到第5题，他说 Therefore, it is essential to protect sea otters to ensure that they and other marine species can 空格 for years to come。因此，保护海獭以确保它们和其他海洋物种能够在未来空格至关重要。这题考我们字汇，空格前方是助动词 can， 空格后方没有受词，所以要填入不及物动词。好，我们看看选项 A linger 它表示逗留，那么 B thrive 表示兴旺茁壮成长， C expand 表示扩展扩大或扩充， D proceed 表示继续进行或是朝某个方向前进。这个题目句子所在的段落是在说明海獭在维持健康的海洋系统中扮演着关键角色，那可以推断它是要表达保护海獭以确保它们和其他海洋物种能够在未来繁衍茁壮是非常重要的。这边最适合答案就是 B thrive 兴旺啊茁壮成长的意思。好，那么以上是今天的讲解，我们就来回顾今天的单字吧。
Behavior.
Mrs. Miller praised her students for their good behavior.
Access. He used a key to access the locked drawer. Marine. Marine weather conditions can change rapidly and with little warning. Mammal. Unlike birds, frogs, and insects, mammals feed their young with milk. Dense. The forest was so dense that almost no sunlight reached the ground. Critical. It is critical to follow safety guidance during an emergency. Species. Scientists have identified more than 2 million species of plants and animals.
Well, that brings us to the end of another edition of our program, and please make sure you join us again next time. From all of us here, I am Roger.
I am Mike.
See you next time.